What's up, everyone? Coach Tony here. In this session, we're going to talk about the SAT and ACT test prep. Let me go ahead and share my. I believe you should see the screen on your end. Let me make it a little bigger uh, to make it a little easier to see. Uh, Fantastic. All right. So in this session, we're going to talk about the SAT and ACT test prep. So the quick little agenda, we're going to talk about different types of colleges that are going to talk about this and relate to this. Number two, we're going to talk about what scores you should be submitting. Number three, which test between the ST and ACT should you be is best for you, when you should be taking or preparing for these exams. That'll be a question of should you, right? Should you be taking these tests or should you not? And ultimately, at the end, once we determine yes, how do we study for this exam? So again, if it's our very first time meeting, my name is Coach Tony. I actually was a former UC Berkeley admissions reader. I got to work at UCLA as an outreach director, and I actually co-founded my own high school in the city of Orange. I served as TikTok's first college admissions partner. I've been running college admissions programs for the last like 16 plus years. So I've been doing this for a very long time. Our goal is to help you guys. Our company's name is Equalock because our goal is to it's college backwards. Our goal is to help you work backwards to get to college to be the most efficient way to get to where you guys want to go and increase your chances of your college admission dreams, right? So with that, let's go ahead and dive straight in. Quick housekeeping stuff. If you guys are joining me live here, go ahead and drop your grade in the chat so I know who is here so I can kind of chat with you guys. It's kind of funny talking to a screen is all. If you have any questions, drop it in the Q&A box. I see it to the side. I'll probably answer at the very end just to combine all the questions. And yes, this call is recorded. You guys can get the replay and the notes within 48 hours typically as well, with our coaching fans getting a little heads up that little earlier. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive straight in to the various sections, right? So the first thing is the types of colleges. So why is this important, right? Because in today's world, there's three types of schools that there are out there. There's test required schools, there's test optional schools, and there's test blind schools, right? These are the three types of schools, colleges that are out there that will either ask or don't care about your score. So it's nice to understand what this means for all of them, right? So first one starting off with test required. So for test required school, this is pretty like old school days, right? So back in the day, everyone took the SAT, everyone had to study, do well. That's pretty much like think of the old days, it's required, right? So meaning you have to submit your SAT, ACT score. If you don't do it, it hurts you, right? If you don't submit one, it hurts your chances, right? Some schools might not even look at your app. They might like, oh, you didn't, the app is incomplete. We're not going to read an incomplete app because we have a lot more apps that are complete as well too. So keeping that in mind, right? So test required is it's out there. Keep in mind, usually, right? These are like the Ivies and the top 25 colleges out there. So a lot of these schools are the ones that are back to test required because there was a period where we went wishy-washy, right, for a little bit. Now a lot of schools are bringing back. If you guys heard the news recently, what kind of stirred up this conversation last Friday, last Wednesday, last week, UPenn is now officially back as well too. So more and more schools, we're predicting that over the next year or 2 years, more and more schools may start to come back as well too, and eventually there'll be a period where we'll see where the tide shifts, right, with these exams too. So that's the first one. I'm gonna skip optional and go straight to blind, right? When it comes to test blind, is that you cannot submit your SAT, ACT scores. They won't even let you, right? So for test blind schools, there's not even going to be an area for you guys to add in your scores. Or if you do add it, the readers who are the people who evaluate your apps, they're not going to see either. The SAT is you or ACT is also used for placement purposes to help you place into certain classes. So that's kind of why if they have you put it, that's kind of, and then for test blind school, that's what it's used for. But for the most part, no, if it's you don't add your score at all. So in this case, right, they won't consider it. Perfect score, score of 0 means nothing. And then the last batch, right? So again, keep in mind, again, this is few schools, right? The example of a pretty big name school that does this is the UC systems, right? The UCs like UCLA and UC Berkeley. they're test blind schools, right? They call it test free, right? They're test blind schools for at least for the next to 2028. So after that, we'll see, right? Their statement goes until 2028. So we'll find out what happens after that, right? Going back now to the biggest bug. This is probably for the biggest chunk of schools. If you look it up, most schools nowadays are test optional. Means you can submit your SAT or ACT score. It can help you, right? At the same time, and it can't hurt you. That's the thing as well, too. So keep in mind your score is not going to help you, or it can help you, but it can't hurt you. That's what optional means, right? So they're not going to be like, oh no, you submit a bad score for an optional, that's going to hurt you. No, they're just going to ignore it. That's kind of, they just ignore the score if it's not going to be beneficial to them is all, right? So in this case, again, it's a strategic move. Should you or should you not? But just keep in mind from the eyes of a reader, if you submit it, it's not a good score. It's not going to hurt you in the application process itself, too. Okay. So that's kind of the first thing that's to keep in mind because, again, if let's say you were like, wait, Coach Tony, I'm only applying to the UCs, then you're done with this lesson. You can leave now. You don't have to do it. Right. Then you're good. You can go off on your merry way, focus on the other areas. But if your schools are optional, if your schools are required, then I would keep listening and keep watching on. Right. So next one, what scores should we submit, right? So when it comes to the scores here, keeping in mind these are going to be our I'm going to do a disclaimer real fast, right? These are our recommendations, right? Our ecological recommendations as well too that we've been telling our coaching families to follow just because it's been working really well for us these past few years as well, right? So when it comes to recommendation, when you're applying to a test required or a test optional school, right? What you want to do is you want to score within the 50th percentile of the school, right? So if you're applying to the thing, just look it up, the median 50th percentile, you want to kind of fall within this range. That's kind of where you want to go. And then if you're aiming for the elite or the higher rank schools, right? 75th is always better, right? The 75th percentile number and higher is always where you kind of want to stay at, if possible, to be competitive in the process itself, right? But keep in mind, as long as you're within the 50th percentile or higher, you can that they will consider that as a strong score. Okay. That being said, one thing we always tell a lot of our families is that where does test scores fall under the umbrella of the admissions process? Test scores will fall under academics, right? That's kind of the bucket that test scores will fall under. And under that bucket, right, academics, let's do academics, right, is probably the least important factor of the admissions process. I'm saying it's not important, just the least important of the three. That means, right? That means if we want to spend more time on our applications and activities than our academics. So if a student told me, Coach Tony, I'm spending like 50 hours a week on my academics, but only 2 hours a week on my activities, I'd be like, uh-oh, bring it back. Let's spend more time on activities because that could be the bigger factor for you in admissions. We have a lot more trainings on that. So if you're interested, let our team know. They can help you grab you some resources about that. Okay. So that's gonna be the big thing. Again, keep in mind our philosophy, right? Our philosophy when it comes to all this, we like to work smart, right? And work hard, right? Is the thing as well, too. A lot of people just like to work hard. They do all the hard things as well. But the big thing for us, we just want to work smart. What's the most efficient way to get to the goals? That's kind of how we like to approach the process. Okay. So with that being said, right, the question is, do we need, the question here is, do we need to prep like for 6 month prep for 6 months, 1 year or plus like that as well too, right? And the answer is no, right? Not in today. Not in today's world, right? Back in the day, I know some parents like 8th grade, they're doing the SAT prep already. 9th grade, ACT prep already. No, no, no. Right? Again, in today's world, again, because it's one of those factors that could make a difference, but it's not a huge thing. Don't stress out too much about this area. So in terms of like how long should you prep? Right? How long should I prep for? Typically, we see 2 to 3 months is ideal, right? And then 1 month is doable, but this is like a cramming. You're basically just cramming information in your head to be ready for the test itself. Okay, so that's gonna be the first one. So now we identify should I not, right? Now is gonna be what test should I take? Because you hear both the exams, the SAT, the ACT, they're both tests are interchangeable, right? Meaning there's no difference. There's no significant advantage to either one. It used to be like East Coast schools like the ACT, West Coast schools like the SAT, but that's years ago. Today's world, they don't care. You take either one, you are good to go. There's an equivalence. There's like a you can Google it. You can find like this score means this for the other exam. Those they have that out there, so it doesn't matter which one. One thing that we like to recommend our students do is the tip here is take both practice tests, right, with time constraints, right, and see which one you do better and enjoy more. That's the real answer here, right? So both of them a little different. They are getting shifted. They are shifting to be similar. For those fun fact, in April, right, the ACT is going digital, right? For those who didn't know, that in literally at the time of this recording, in like 2 months from now, the ACE is going to go digital, and with that, it's be shorter and without the science section. So this will be one of the things that they're taking out of the ACT is the science section itself too. So it'll be a little more interesting to see how it plays out with the dynamic. But that's kind of the format. It's going to be turning digital, no science, and so we'll see how it kind of plays out with our students who are taking that test for the first time there, right? So, but the idea is you take both tests with the time limit. That's the key, by the way. This is the key, right? The time constraint. You can, in theory, you can take these tests with no time limit and get a perfect score. These, again, they're not hard per se per test, right? Unless you don't know the knowledge, and it's hard. But the reason why it makes it difficult is a time test. You have only so much time test you can take, right? I think that's gonna be the hard part as well. So that's gonna be the big one. The last thing here is that keeping in mind, right? Because these are standardized time tests, right? Just know, right? Know that for most problems, right? You're not supposed to do the actual work, right? One of the things we actually have our own prep class right now. One of our coaches has been teaching at Princeton Review for like 10 years. She's currently working with our March SAT families. And by the way, for our coaching families, we are opening up our May cohort for you guys to join. If you guys are interested in that, it's included for our coaching families. But one of the things we've been teaching in our class students on a weekly basis is that the problems are not supposed to be done correctly. There are tricks, and that's kind of the purpose of the exams. They is like, can you identify the patterns? Can you identify the tricks? Most of these problems you actually don't do. You either plug it in or there's other techniques you can use, right? Oh, there's this little trick here. I see it. Here's the answer. You can kind of speed run your way through. And that's the big thing that these tests are really testing, not actually the actual can you do the work? Because of course you can do the work if you have enough time for it. Okay. That being said, when should we do it? Let's kind of break this down year by year. Okay. Oops. Break this down year by year. So the first one is ninth graders, right? Should we be taking a ninth grade? No, right? Should not be taking it in ninth grade as well. So just relax, right? Unless you are really good, unless really good test taker, right? When you take a practice test and you get like a perfect score. I'm like, oh, in that case, might as well take it and be done with it, right? Is the thing. But most ninth graders do not get a really good score on these exams. So I'll say skip it, right? 10th grade, right? You are going to take the PSAT, right, in October. Some schools do October, some schools do it in March. So one of those 2 months usually is what I see, right? And for this one, don't study, right? People don't study for this test. It means nothing. If you get a perfect score, they give you a high five. If you get the worst score, they don't give you a high five. But nothing matters for this exam, right? So don't stress out too much. However, right, if you get a really high score, right? High score, I would study for the SAT and take it. That's kind of the strategy there, right? If you do really, really well, take the exam right away because you're probably gonna do well. The PSAT and the SAT are very similar. That's why. Okay. Moving over to 11th grade, right? the PSAT in October. This one is October for everyone, right? This one is big. This one qualifies you for national merit, right? National merit is a potential full ride scholarship to get you guys free money for college, right? So that's really, really cool for your parents, right? Is the big thing there. So the question here, should you study a lot for this? So what I would say is if you're close, means you're less than 100 points away, right, to getting it, study for the PSAT, right, and do as best as you can because you're almost there. However, if you're not close, right, not close, don't study. Just take the test blind and take the test blind as well too, because again, it's not going to matter much. It's going to be more for you prepping for what you want to do. Okay. After the PSAT timeline, what you want to do now is take the SAT or ACT in the winter and the springtime. So a lot of our students, you'll see they take the first exam either in March or April, right? Is the first one. Start studying in January. That's what our students did. They started in January, so it's 2-3 months there. And then usually, right? Usually you take a second exam because you probably messed up or you probably got nervous on the first exam. So you want to retake it one more time. You usually take it in like 1-2 months after as well too. Study for retake is it, right? We don't recommend 3 more, right? So could you take it a third, fourth, fifth time? You could. Could you keep increasing? You could as well too. But there's a concept in economics called the law of diminishing returns, meaning could you increase? Yes, but the number of inputs you had is not going to pay off. Right. And then that's the big thing to keep in mind as well, too. Right. Same thing when it comes to 12th grade. Ideally, right, you should have finished your exams already. Keeping in mind also, FY, that early action and early decision schools have earlier deadlines because technically, right, because however, right, however, some schools will let you take it in December is the thing. Right? Let you take it in December and then submit it. Keeping in mind though, if you are doing early action or early decision, you can't take it in December because they need to know before that. So they need to know, like usually I think by August or something is the last exam date that you can take to qualify. Again, every school is different. Please check as well. Okay. That being said, now that we know that, how do we know should I take it or should I not take it? Right. So there's a few. It's like a tree. It's like an if-then statements, right? So first off, first question you ask yourself. So ask yourself, right? Ask yourself, number one, do I have any colleges that are test required, right? Is the first one you ask yourself. And keep in mind, right, that require test. Let's go to it, right? That's number one. If the answer is yes, right? If yes, right? If yes, take it. It's a very, very straightforward answer, right? If you have any college that require tests, you gotta take it as well too. Okay, so that's that. So let's say you want to apply to the MIT. MIT is a very notorious school for having tests required. So if you apply to MIT, yes, you will be planning to take the SAT and ST or ACT in some capacity. Number two, all right, are all of your schools test blind, right? Test blind. Right? If yes, right, don't take it. Is it, right? Are all your schools test blind? That's not right, but okay. All your schools test blind. For example, if Coach Time only applied to all the UCs, I'm like, cool, they're all test blind. Don't take it all. Skip it all together, right? People say, I'm gonna take it for the fun of it. I'm like, why? There's other things on your app that probably needs more work that you should rather spend that time doing. That I think that's the thing for us. Again, we want to note real fast. Okay, this is based on spending your time, maximizing your time the best it can be. Could you stay? Sure. Again, there's nothing wrong with not doing it or doing it. The issue is we're just trying to focus on the most efficient way to get this done, right? Could you? Sure. But again, keep in mind, if you're going to study for the exam, you're going to spend like 40, 80, 120 hours studying for this that you might not be spending somewhere else. I think that's the big key here. Okay. So that being said, if all your schools has line, then don't take it. Now, the last one is, are any of your schools test optional, right? And if so, right? If so, the question is a follow-up question is, can you increase your score to the 50th percentile? Right? Is the other piece as well too, right? Because if let's say test optional, right? Because let's say, for example, and just an FYI, also, this is just like our historical data, is that you can increase your score by 100-ish points per month of maxing out at about 2 to 50, right? So again, can you go more? We have students who do more, right? Especially if you are in the lower ranges, it's pretty easy to get up really high. But once you get to like the 1400, 1500, it's really, really hard to keep moving up there. A lot of our students, when they first start in the 11, 1200 range, maybe 1300. So when they work, they study, they can get to like the 14, 15 range. And that's kind of like the goal for them there, right? So that's it. So the question is, can you get there? Meaning, assuming you study wherever you're at now, if you add 200 points to it, could you get to where you want to go? And then a few things happen, right? If you can, right? If yes, take it, right? If you can't, don't take it. Is the thing. Because could you? You could, but then you could be just spending more time doing something that may not play a big role for you. Again, the concept here is like the inputs versus the outputs, right? If you're gonna spend 40, 80, 120 hours studying for this, are you gonna get the same payout in the back end? I think that's the big question at the end of the day. Okay. So now let's talk about how do I study, right? So now we agreed, or you guys have been like, yep, oops, Coach Tony, I am going for it. I am going to study. How do I do that, right? So it's a few ways, right? So I would say it's based on the limitation here. The limitation is based on resources, budget, and where you want to go, right? Is the big one, right? So keeping in mind, if you are on a free 99 budget, I don't want to spend any money, right? I don't want to spend all free, right? Then I would say go to Khan Academy, khanacademy.org, I believe, his website. There, Sal Khan, the guy who created Khan Academy, they partnered up with the College Board. They also have an ACT program, I believe, that you can learn all the stuff there for free, take practice exams and problems for free. Right? Really cool concept. Also, College Board, and with that, ACT, right? So the two companies that actually make their exams do have free resources on their websites, where you can definitely use those to practice. Another resource is also YouTube and TikTok as well too, right? Again, YouTube has pretty much anything you can think of nowadays. So you use Google SAT prep course or TikTok, right? Tons of people are learning stuff on TikTok as well too. So like learning platforms. I'm not gonna post this on the notes, but in theory, those are listing, right? In theory, you could look up resources online. May not be ethical, but in theory, they may be out there in case if you want to look hard enough. Is all for resources to help you guys out that might fit under the free category there. Okay, that's the first one. Let's say, Coach Tony, I want to spend about like $100, right? I want to spend like $100 or less, right? Or less as well too, right? I have a little small budget, not a lot of budget, a little budget to do it as well too. How can I do this, right? So a few things, right? So I would say prep books, right, is a pretty good way to do it as well too. They can definitely help you guys with this. Is the thing here. So if you buy like the SAT prep book, the ACT, there's a blue book, the red book as well too. They can go through everything in a written form. You can go through the material and prep for. A lot of them, by the way, are now online, so you can actually go online on the Kindle, iPad, the tablet, computer, and do it as well. That's option one. A company that we like working with really well is magoosh.com. I just had a meeting with the CEO this past week as well too. He's a super nice guy. I used to work there, for those who don't know. I used to work there as well too. Super awesome. Our students use their programs to study. They're doing really well as well too. So that's that. We actually have a discount code. If anyone's interested, just let me know. I can pass it over to you as well. But magoosh.com is a really awesome. They're a self-paced program, meaning you just go through the material and help them out. Just go through the stuff. They'll recommend things for you to work on and study. I think is a great bang for your buck as well too there. Okay, so that's that. The last piece is it's Coach Tony got monies, right? He got monies, got $30 some dollar bills, right? As well too. Then I would say get a private tutor, right? Get a private tutor, get private tutoring as well too, especially right or looking for a huge score increase. This is the one thing. Keep in mind, our strategy does not rely on a huge score increase. Our strategy is what's the best we can do in the shortest amount of time. That's kind of our strategy, right? But there are some students who are like, I want to go to MIT. I want to get, but just FY, by the way, our MIT student did not have a really crazy ST score either. I think even our MIT coaches didn't have a score. So don't trust that too much, right? But let's say, hey, I want to increase really high. I'm at 1,000. I want to get to the 1,500 range. Cool. You probably need a little bit more than what we can offer you as well too, or what Magoosh can offer, the prep books can offer you. Maybe a tutor can help you guys out with that. So there's like companies out there, Princeton Review, Kaplan. They offer live classes, self-paced classes, online classes, in-person class you guys can join. You can get a one-on-one tutor. Look locally is what I would say. Go talk to your teachers, your counselors, library, to try to find resources as well. This is a really awesome opportunity for you to kind of get help. Again, this is what help you can if you have the money to spend and looking for a huge increase. Do you need it? I don't think so. But right, but that's the big thing, right? But here is the magical answer though. Again, I used to work as a test prep tutor for Magoosh, and then you saw a lot of questions come through. A lot of people like, how do I study? How do I study? And here's the answer, right? So the study strategy, right? If you just listen to this, you'll be fine. You don't need actually anyone to help you, and you'll be good, right? Here's the one question you want to think about. If you could never make the same mistake twice, you only need 3 full-length practice tests to get a perfect score. That's it. I've done it so many times. This is literally the strategy and the answer, right? The reason why this works is that the SAT and the ACT are both standardized tests. What does standardized mean? That means, right, there are no surprise questions, right? They tell you exactly what they're gonna ask you. They're gonna ask you. They tell you, we're going to ask you 5% of these problems. We're going to tell you 20% of these problems. They give you a breakdown, right? Of everything. They don't surprise you. They tell you, hey, I'm going to ask you one question about trig. I'm going to tell you like this many things on this, and you're going to be prepared for that because as long as you do it, you're good. So the question is, right? You never make the same mistake twice because I have a lot of students who ask me, Coach Tony, right? I've been doing 20 practice tests, my score stays the same. And I'm like, have you looked at all 20 practice tests? Have you seen what problems did you get wrong? Huh. Look at all 20 tests. Did you get the same problem wrong all 20 times? It's like the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing, expecting different results. You didn't learn from it. You didn't learn from that mistake. So the idea, right, is if you don't make the same mistake twice, in 3 exams, you should hit every type of problem you can think of out there, right? Then you guys study the material that's in there because you got it wrong because you don't understand a certain concept or a certain trick or a certain something. You got to focus on that and then you're good to go. Okay. So the biggest tip here is do not make the same mistake twice. Sounds easy, hard in practice, right? But that's kind of the big takeaway of this. You do this again, I guarantee you, you get a near perfect score, right? The reason why the practice and the practice is actually hard because again, you got to see what you did wrong, understand why you got it wrong. Is it a content? Do you not understand it? Or is it a silly mistake? If it's a silly mistake, how did it trick you? What's the trap answer? How you fix that? So there's a lot of if thens, but once you understand, so I tell students like if you're spending an hour taking a test, take like 3-4 hours reviewing it, right? Take three for like a long time reviewing it, and that's all you need. Take a few practice tests. You don't need anyone's help, right? You'll be able to get a really high score by yourself just following this specific trick itself. Okay, that is pretty much it on this training for here today. So it looks like we had a few questions that came into the chat as well. So we'll have a few announcements. I'll jump into that as well too. Okay. So a few quick announcements. Number one, if anyone here is a junior, our 2026 juniors, our college app intensive is starting in like 6 weeks now. Holy moly. Really, really soon now. So April, May, June, we have our Kickstart event. It's a 1-day event. We help you basically start and get your rough drafts done with all your essays, right? So if you guys want to sign up, definitely sign up for that. For Accelerator, if you guys want to get started with Accelerator, Accelerator is a two-part event, a 2-day event. It's in the summertime, July, August, September. It's often virtual or in person. You can uh, come with your drafts. You'll leave with your final draft. So small groups, 15 coaches, 3 students. As a result, the small ratio, we're already sold out in 6 weekends. Also, announcement for you guys, we opened a new weekend for you guys, right? We sold out so fast that parents got start booking random states and random areas that we opened up a new location because technically we're almost sold out of Bay Area. Bay Area goes that fast. So we just opened up a new location, not new, it's the same location, another weekend. We opened a second Berkeley weekend. So those who are interested in Berkeley, again, do it soon. Again, every week I announce it, another event gets sold out. So if you guys, any juniors interested, go to collegeappintensive.com. First come, first serve. We will not make exceptions. We do not add extra seats because we can't physically, the room only fits so many people, is all. And if we add more than 15, students can't finish that weekend. So it's kind of, that's the downside of adding more. So to make sure all students finish, 15 to 3 coaches there. Okay, so that's gonna be College App Intensive. We have our newsletter out. We're launching tomorrow, our next edition. Every week we send out a newsletter sharing some success stories, sharing some tips you guys can use right away, what you should be working on. I share some scholarships with you guys as well. If you guys are interested, go to collegeadmissionsecrets.co, not com.co, collegeadmissionsecrets.co. You'll be able to register. It's free. It's a private newsletter, but it's free. It'll drop in your inbox every Tuesday, 6 a.m. Pacific. Okay. And if you guys want the notes or replay, go ahead and text our team the word notes or the word replay to 949-298-6234 for that. And if you're not yet one of our coaching families and you're interested in setting up a free 15-minute coaching session with us, go ahead and text the word coach, 949-298-6234. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in some Q&A and then we will call it a wrap. So first one, why does the PSA in 10th grade not count for merit? That's a question for the national merit. You got to go call them up and get them mad. But it means nothing, right? It means nothing in that year. It's the PSA 10. There's also, by the way, for those who are super geeky, there's also a PSAT 8-9. So in 8th and 9th grade, you can take it as well too. But most schools don't actually do that. That's something you got to do on your own. There's 8-9, there's 10. And the one that matters for national merit is the PSAT 11, right? So that's the one that counts. The other ones don't count for anything, right? Next one. Is there advantage taking the test at a certain time of the year? Not to the colleges, but to you, right? The reason why is that, let's say, majority of students, the reason why we recommend junior year specifically is there is still content, right? The reason why an 8th grader does not do well, just like natural, normal 8th grader does not do as well as an 11th grader, natural 11th grader, is because of 3 years you learn knowledge and you learn stuff that can help you with the exam is all, right? It's not saying, again, couldn't 8th grade do well? Yes, I've seen many 8th graders do well too, but the average, think of the average 8th grader, the average 11th grader, the 11th grader will on average beat the 8th grader because they have more knowledge in them. It's still half knowledge, but the other half is the strategies, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind as well too. So 11th grade is usually the most optimal year, unless you're really smart, you're a good test taker, 9th, 10th grade and take it, right? But if not, 11th grade is the best year. Could you do it in summer? Could you do it in the fall time of senior year? You could. There's nothing stopping you. They actually open it until December. The issue though is high school juniors, you're about to do college apps, for anyone else, right? Senior year, you're working on college apps, right? You guys are underestimating the time of work it takes to juggle apps with senior year school, with your activities, with senior year festivities, the dances, the prom, and all the fun stuff that comes with senior year, right? You're juggling all this. You're gonna burn out, right? It's really hard to find time. So you do it the summer before senior year summer. That way you do have some more time to spend on this. That's what I would recommend. Okay. Cool. Sounds like that is pretty much it for today. So that's it for this training. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let us know down below. If not, I'll see you guys in the next training. Bye, everyone.